Welcome to the Pewtercast. This is one of our off-season episodes. My name is Brent Allen. I'll be your host for tonight. Ren Daxt is the co-host. Ren, buddy, happy post-Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, what was that? I enjoyed the game. I should say I enjoyed the game. The Patriots had the ball. You know,
Okay.
that was competitive football. It was like a good offense versus good defense. But when the Rams got the ball, and would they punt like 8 times in a row? And
Yeah.
I don't think they got their second or third first down till like almost halftime. It was when the Rams had the ball, it was rough to watch. But I'm all for good defensive football. I really enjoy when the Patriots had the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It was really hard to watch when the Rams had the ball.
It really was. And it was the exact opposite of what everybody expected going into this game. I know all the articles I said this was going to be a super high-scoring game. It's the number one offense in the league. Just all these things. And man, they just they folded. They absolutely folded. But regardless of that, the Patriots are the champions yet again. And we find ourselves with no more football, Ren, for the next, 8-9 months, however long it takes us to get there.
It feels that long.
It
I don't
does.
think it's really that long.
No. And I got to tell you, and here's the weird thing, Ren. Here's the weird thing. Is like when I played football back in high school, like I'd get to the end of the season was such a grind, and I'd be so ready for it to be done that I just wanted to be out of the season. But then like 2-3 weeks later, like I'd be ready to get back in the season. And I feel that way as a fan. I feel that way as a podcaster. And we basically ended our show a month ago, where our season is so involved. We're doing 4 shows a week and we've got everything else going on. And then I was ready. I was ready at the end of the season to be done. And then we've kind of had this month off. We've done a couple of shows, but certainly not as many as we normally do. And I'm ready to get back in the saddle. It's just, football's done.
Yeah. We got the combine coming up in a couple of weeks, and then free agency, and then the draft, and then, we're back at it. But like you said, it's that whole process takes months. And right now, we have I think you said a very rich, of Buccaneer media podcasts that are out there that fans can listen to and read, but it's all the same stuff right now. It's just what I talked about. It's mock drafts. It's combine stuff's about to kick into full gear coming up here. Who's going to move up and down draft boards? Free agency talks already started. Draft talk, of course, has always been kicking. Should we move up? Should we move down? We need offensive linemen, and it's going to be the same thing. Like over and over and over again for the next few months. So. Since you miss football, and I really don't want to do all that stuff right now, because honestly, there's no reason to.
Because we'll do it. We'll get to all of that stuff about the Buccaneers.
Oh, yeah. We'll talk about the combine, and we'll talk about free agency, and we'll talk about the draft, of course. But right now, there's, at least I think there's a new exciting league coming out, and their first game is Saturday. The Alliance, the Orlando Apollos, right up the road, man.
Yeah. So, we got basically he's their Scott Smith over there with the Apollos. And we got him. We did an interview with him a little bit earlier today, and we're going to play that for you guys here. And it was just fun, Red. It was fun getting to talk to him about the Apollos. As it
You're talking about Tom Alexander, right?
Tom Alexander, yeah, thank you. Tom Alexander of the Apollos.
He's their Scott Smith, like you said. He runs their website, does their stories. He's the inside guy. He knows the organization in and out. He's been with the team since its inception, which isn't that long a time, but it's not like he just got brought on last week.
Sure.
He travels with the team. So we brought him on and hey, tell us about the Apollos. Tell us about this new league, and he had some exciting things to say. And my favorite thing was the on-site conversion.
Yeah.
I really like that. And you'll hear that in the interview. So,
yeah, and I got to tell you, Ren, you said you were excited. I have not been super excited about this new league. I'll be honest. These are the guys. And you get into it. These are mostly the guys who didn't make a roster in the NFL. That's mostly who these guys are. So
had a cup of coffee.
Yeah. It's those kind of guys. So I wasn't super excited, but I got to tell you, on the backside of this interview, I'm really excited about this new football league starting. Like, I'm so excited, Ren. You know what I think we ought to do?
Don't say it.
I think we ought to start a new podcast.
I knew you were going to say it.
I think we should. I think we should start a new podcast all about the
Orlando's Apollo podcast?
Yeah.
Well, the season, all right, let's do pros. Season short.
Short. It's only 10 weeks.
Yeah.
It'll be
fun to talk about because we're actually talking about football.
Yeah.
You know, all the players are sort of centrally allocated to teams. So these are a lot of guys that, you know, our listeners watched at, you know, all the Florida schools or, you know, had a cup of coffee with the Bucs or the Dolphins.
Or on the practice squad or actually on the team, on the roster.
Yeah, on the roster.
Yeah.
Cons, well, new graphics, show name. That'll take about, you know, debate back and forth for a week. And then, you know, like our tastes in music are so different.
It's true. I mean, I have good taste. But you know what, Ren? Here, listen. Here. We could just do something like this.
You know what time it is?
Showtime.
It's showtime.
Welcome to Showtime with the Apollos. This is a brand new podcast all about the Orlando Apollos. I am Brent Allen, your host, joined for the very first time by my co-host because this is the very first episode of this brand new podcast, Ren Daxt. Ren, how the hell are you, buddy?
I'm good. I like your energy. I hope this chemistry works.
I hope so. Yeah, it's new territory we're both stepping into here. So, hey, listen, this is a brand new podcast all about the Orlando Apollos. And, man, we've got a lot on deck. The Apollos' inaugural season starts this week as we record this. It starts on Saturday, and we've got a new team to get to know, Ren. You and I do this other little podcast. Some of our listeners may have heard of it. It's called the Pewtercast, all about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There are some Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the Apollos. And, you know, one of the things kind of about this that makes doing an NFL podcast, a long-standing team, a little bit easier is, you know, you talk about stuff that's not just the field. You talk about all the other things, the storylines that surround the team. The Apollos are creating their own storylines right now. So where do we start? Where do we start in this new podcast?
Well, I guess we'd have to, you know, you start with an origin story.
There you go. Like any good superhero film.
And who best to give us an origin story than
Scott Smith? Tom Alexander of the Orlando Apollos is joining us. He is going to talk to us about all the things that have to do with the Orlando Apollos. He's going to give us some behind-the-scenes information. He's also going to let us know about this new league and what's happening with this new league. And we get some hard-hitting questions about Steve Spurrier, the head coach, the first quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but also obviously coaching legend right here in Florida. And we can't wait to get into that. So, Ren, why don't we go ahead and jump right into our interview with Tom Alexander of the Orlando Apollos. All right, first, tell us what you do with the Apollos, Tom.
Okay. I am the team reporter. That's my official title. Every team in the Alliance has one. And I'm embedded with the team. I'm the head writer for the website for OrlandoApollos.com. And I'm basically the resident expert on the Apollos, at least as it pertains to on-the-field stuff.
Cool. So I think Bucs fans, our analog for you would be a guy that we call Scott Smith, or maybe even a Carmen Vitale that we have over with the Buccaneers. So, So you're going to be our knowledgeable guy. You're the guy to answer all of our questions because this being the inaugural season of the Apollos, like, you know, with the Bucs, we've got 40 some odd years of history. We're making the history right now with the Apollos.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So,
the Alliance in general is making history.
Yeah. So, you know, we're super excited. Ren was actually the one who had the idea to even do this special show. So I'm very grateful for that, and we're excited to jump in. But let's start kind of maybe with a little more of the fluffy stuff. Like a big part of following a team in the NFL as a podcaster and for the people that listen to the show is, yes, it's a lot about what happens on the field, but it's also about following, what are the storylines that are developing outside of the lines, and so you've been there with the team, you've been there through training camp. Like what should we know as we're coming into this inaugural season here with the Orlando Apollos? Like what's happening with the team?
Well, I think the biggest thing that you should know about the Apollos and really about the Alliance of American Football in general is this is about guys getting another shot at their dream. 70 or 80% of the players in the Alliance have been on NFL rosters within the last year and a half. These are guys who just barely missed out on making NFL teams by hundredths of a second, maybe in the 40-yard dash. They got an injury at the wrong time. They didn't have a good fit with a coach or a system, and they got cut. And so now they've got a chance to come play professional football, get paid a full-time salary to do it for 10 weeks, and get 10 weeks of game film against professional competition that scouts and GMs, at the highest level can look at and say, hey, maybe we made a mistake with this guy. Let's give him another shot.
Yeah, that's I was looking over the roster of the Apollos, and then I sort of branched out a little bit, but not much because we're pro Apollo here. It looks like are all the rosters sort of regional based to start off, because it seems like most of the players are from USF, Florida Atlantic, UF, USF. Like a lot of Florida guys who went to Florida schools collegiately are on the Apollos. Is that sort of how the rosters were built, at least to start off?
Yeah, the part of the Alliance is set up going forward. The whole concept is regional player allocation. So there's 8 teams in the Alliance. They are all allocated a group of colleges and universities in their region where they play. They're also allocated 4 NFL franchises each and 1 CFL franchise. So guys are allocated to teams based on where they played their college football or their most recent NFL team or CFL team in whatever case.
And
so that's why you'll see a lot of Florida guys with the Apollos. The Arizona Hotshots will have a lot of guys from the Southwest and the West. The San Diego Fleet have a lot of guys from California schools and Pac-12 schools, things like that.
So obviously, then that would make the Buccaneers one of those teams that's allocated to the Apollos. A couple of players that I can think of off the top of my head as I look down the roster here with the Apollos that Bucs fans might recognize a few names. Dante Dye, who actually was a favorite of mine personally. I love Dante Dye a lot. Drew Ferris is a long snapper, was with us for a while. Who else are maybe some former Bucs there on the roster that you can? I don't know if you have that like off the top of your head. But
yeah, I've got Mark Myers Jr., one of our cornerbacks. He was a story in Bucs minicamp because he came from little NAIA Southeastern University in Lakeland, which had just started up football, and he got invited to Bucs minicamp. So he's with us. And I'm not positive if too many of these other guys. I mean, we've had a lot of guys that have had cups of coffee with different NFL teams over the years. So it's possible some of these guys have been on the Bucs practice squad at one time or another. But we've got people around the team that Bucs fans would know too. Our head coach Steve Spurrier was the Bucs' first quarterback.
There you go.
And our general manager Tim Ruskell worked in the Bucs front office on and off for many years. And our cornerbacks coach is a guy named Donnie Abraham, who you might know as Bucs fans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of Todd Washington, our offensive tackles coach, I think was an assistant with the Buccaneers during the Super Bowl run. So there's a lot of Bucs ties on our team.
Now the first game is this weekend, and I was really happy to see that the league itself got picked up by CBS, and there's some other outlets there that are going to be carrying the game. And the Apollo's Legends, the Atlanta Legends, which, by the way, their logo and uniforms are terrible. They are. It looks like somebody made their logo from clip art, but whatever. This is going to be picked up on CBS, but there's a few, like, it's NFL football 11 on 11, but there's a few rules that are different. So what can our listeners that tune into this game this weekend on CBS that are going to see, or maybe even like not see, such as like kickoffs and things of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, there aren't that many differences, but there are a few really significant ones. We don't have kickoffs in the Alliance. After a score or at the change of the half, the team starts on their own 25-yard line, which is where the touchback is in the NFL.
Sure.
The reason for that chiefly is that the Alliance places a really heavy emphasis on player safety, and kickoffs are among the most dangerous plays in football. Guys are running full speed from opposite ends of the field at each other. They don't slow down, and a lot of guys get hurt on those plays, so we got rid of them. We have, instead of onside kicks, another really dangerous play, we have our own thing called an onside conversion. So if you're behind in the score and you want to try and get the ball back after you get a touchdown, you have the option to take an onside conversion try, which is a 4th down and 12 from your own 28-yard line. And if you convert, you keep the ball, and if you don't, your opponent's got the ball in your end of the field.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
That takes some balls to do it, but if you think you can do it, man, that's money.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's if you have a good offense, it means you're not out of it. And a lot of times, and nothing against kickers, because I love kickers, and we have a great one in Elliott Fry, but the quarterback's often your best player. And if you're behind and you want to try and keep the ball and catch up, wouldn't you want the ball in the hands of your best player? I mean, talk to the Kansas City Chiefs about that, or talk to some of the other teams that got knocked out of the NFL playoffs this year.
So, or even the Super Bowl. I mean, that field goal would have made I know he missed it, but that play would have been so much more suspenseful if, like, hey, he makes this, the Rams getting the ball, down on their 28-yard line, 4th and 12, like one more play and they're back in it, and there's 45 seconds left to go. I mean, I think that's a great. I wonder who came up with that, because of all the ways to sort of try to keep the ball. I just think that's brilliant. I like that a lot.
So I got a question.
Yeah, a committee of people who came up with these changes. Jeff Fisher, the former NFL head coach, is sort of the head leading the charge on that. But yeah, it was a committee of really smart, experienced football people that looked at it and said, okay, it's going to hit at a higher rate than, say, the onside kick will, and it's exciting. We had a few scrimmages throughout the Alliance at the end of training camp in San Antonio last weekend, and we had some teams try it in the scrimmages, and it's not only an exciting play, but it means that no team is ever truly out of it in the Alliance.
So because I can hear people out there listening going, okay, now wait a minute, like, what's to prevent a team from we score a touchdown. All right, we're going to try this conversion. We get the touchdown. We score another touchdown. We're going to try the conversion again, and just continuing to try that. Like, is there something that can actually stop them? Or are they only allowed to do it once, or how does that work?
You're not only allowed to do it once, but you have to be behind in order to do it.
Okay.
So it's not something where a team could theoretically keep the ball on offense an entire game and never let the other team have the ball.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I can take that.
But it's basically you would use it in a situation where one would want to try an onside kick.
Right. So but if a team say a team's behind more than one score, they're behind 2 or 3 scores, could they do that a couple of times in a row as long as they're behind?
The Apollos had a scrimmage against the San Diego Fleet, and the Fleet were down a few scores and decided they were gonna try. So they tried. They scored. They tried one. They got it. Mm-hmm. They went down, scored again, and they missed the second conversion by like a yard. So, and it ended up costing them the game, the scrimmage.
Sure.
So, because we got the ball with less than a minute to go and basically knelt on it. So, you can, if you're down enough, you can theoretically keep trying it. You can even try it. We had one team try it after a safety, and in that case, it's a little bit harder. They put it at they put it back a little further. I can't remember what it is now, but you have to try it from your own, I think, 22 or 25 instead of the 28. if you want to try and get it back after you give up a safety.
All right. So if you gave it the safety, would it be longer than 4th and 12? Would it be more like 4th and 15 or 4th and 17?
I think it's still a 4th and 12, and you're back further, so it's riskier because if you don't get it, your opponent is that much closer to scoring.
Gotcha. I'm excited for this. I really am excited for this. I'm going to throw out just an opinion question, a fun question for you. Besides the Apollos, because we know they have the best unis, who has the best unis besides the Apollos, of course? Because I think there's some really good ones. There's also, as I've already let cat out of the bag, the Legends are terrible. There's some really sharp uniforms. Who's your favorite besides, the hometown Apollos there?
Wow. I think the Birmingham Iron look real sharp with the black and silver. They've got all black unis, black helmets with the silver logo. So they look, it's really striking to see them on the field. And I like the San Antonio Commanders. They've got silver and 2 shades of red, which on paper and as I say it doesn't sound like, anything spectacular. But, man, they look sharp when they actually put them on and get out there. So I would say besides the Apollos, which are by far my favorite,
of course,
I would say those 2.
Yeah, I like the San Antonio, how on the back of the helmet they did the silhouette of the Alamo that wraps around the back. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So another rule change that I've seen out there is the play clock, I think, is supposed to be different as well. Is that true?
Yeah, our play clock is shorter than the NFL play clock. It's 35 seconds instead of 40. That's a pace of play decision. We also don't have TV timeouts. So the key here is the Alliance, when they sort of developed this concept, they wanted to get the game times down to around 2.5 hours instead of 3. So no TV timeouts. So you won't see you'll get commercial breaks when there are actual timeouts, maybe at the end of a quarter, things like that. But you won't get them like after every possession, like you might see, at the next level. Another significant thing you'll see changed is we don't kick for extra points. You go for 2 every time.
I like it.
And where's the line of scrimmage on the 2-point conversion?
It's at the 2 or the 3.
Okay.
It's similar to where the NFL's is.
There's data out there, and I can't put my hands on. Honestly, I can't say that I've done this data. I've just heard that it's out there. But from what I understand, there's data out there that actually says that you should never actually kick the ball. Like, you should punting, no kicking, just go for it every single time. And like, statistically, you wind up coming up better on the other side if you just never kick it. Like, you'll lose it sometimes. But
some of it depends on the field position. But I know there's increasingly a trend among coaches to want to go for it on 4th down in places where maybe 10, 20 years ago coaches would not have done that. But we still have punts and we still kick field goals.
Right. So go ahead, Ren.
Yeah. So geared up for this first game, who are the players? You've seen scrimmages. You've been around these guys for, a couple months now. Who are the guys that I'm going to want to keep an eye on when I watch this game coming up this weekend for the Apollos?
Well, on the Apollos, our starting quarterback is Garrett Gilbert. He's out of SMU. He was our first pick in the Alliance quarterback draft last fall. He most recently got some playing time in Week 17 with the Carolina Panthers. But he's our starting quarterback. Good size, big body type guy. He's mobile in the pocket, can make all the throws, really poised on offense. Akeem Hunt is our likely starter at running back. He was just with the Kansas City Chiefs not that long ago, and he's been with the Texans as well. At wide receiver, we have Charles Johnson, who just a couple of years ago had about 500 receiving yards in a season for the Minnesota Vikings, and he's been with some other teams in the NFL. And then on defense, our defensive front is a bunch of big, bad men. I'll tell you that. And I don't mean off the field bad. I mean on the field. Our quarterbacks have said repeatedly, now that training camp is over, they're glad not to have to face those guys every day. So we've got Earl Okine at outside linebacker, who's our big pass rusher off the edge in our 3-4 defense. He's 6'7", fast, likes to get after the quarterback. And we got 2 safeties with a lot of NFL experience. Jerome Copeland spent some time with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Redskins. And you guys might remember Will Hill, who is a University of Florida guy.
Yep.
And spent some time with the Giants in the NFL, and he's another one of our safeties.
All right. Well, we've been talking about the NFL a little bit about during this pod, and the AFL. What's sort of this? What if we're 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks into the season, and the Buccaneers come calling for Will Hill? Like, how does that work? Is he allowed to go? Is he encouraged to go? Is this like one of the main reasons the league's here, or is it like they have to finish out their contract or finish out the season and then go? Like how is that all going to work between you guys in the NFL?
Well, we've had it happen a couple of times, like with Garrett. We drafted him, and then the Panthers came calling. The players all have outs in their contracts if the NFL comes calling, and then there is a process where if they were to get waived or released in the NFL, there's a process that they have to go through before they come back to the Alliance. The Alliance is designed as not a competing league with the NFL. We're a complementary league. The word developmental league has been used on and off. We're not a minor league for the NFL or a feeder system necessarily, but we are here to give guys who need a little more developmental time and some more playing time those reps that they need. So there wouldn't be an issue if a guy, that's the goal. If a guy gets called to the NFL, that's good for the Alliance and that's good for that player. So no, nobody would stop him. Now, given that our season ends in April, which is right around it, our championship game is the same weekend as the NFL draft. So our season will wind up right around the time that teams are looking to sign undrafted free agents before OTAs. So I don't think there'll be too many NFL teams trying to pluck Alliance players during the season. Right. But you'll see it, as soon as the season's over, I'm sure.
So let me ask you this, and this is a lot of people don't like me when I say this. It's not they don't like me, whatever. I'm not a big college football guy. Like, I love the NFL. I love watching the NFL. And here's the reason why, because I feel like when I'm watching college football, a lot of times it's like I'm watching football through molasses. Like, it just looks like it's moving slower. Obviously, you've got your superstars in college football. Those guys are fun to watch, but everything just doesn't seem as sharp as the NFL when I'm watching pro football. What should viewers be expecting when they're watching an I'm going to used to saying that, AAF game?
No, the Alliance. The Alliance is a good shorthand.
Okay, great.
It's easier to say than the AAF.
All right. What can I expect as a viewer?
The thing that surprised a lot of people, especially NFL scouts and pro scouts that came to our training camp, was the talent level throughout the league. I mean, these are all professional players. They've all been in the league or played college football at a very high level. So the speed of the game, it might be a hair off from the top level guys in the NFL, but it is not. It's not as slow as some college teams. It looks and sounds and feels like professional football.
Yeah, this is the part of the pod where I always disown Brent when he says that. He also guess what? He doesn't like mock drafts either.
I hate them.
Oh, I'm not a fan of those either.
Thank you. Glad to know I'm not alone. Because they're never right.
Can one really predict what team executives are looking at and saying in their war rooms? I don't think so.
Exactly. Take it to church, brother. Take it to church. Let's do it. Come on, preach it.
Okay, I've read a little bit about these teams, and I've looked at their rosters and things, and I've listened to some other people talk about the Alliance. And what I keep getting back from it might just be, local bias from what I'm listening to, but it sounds like the Apollos are stacked, and if I'm not mistaken, that they're favored to win it this year.
Well, the first odds that came out of Vegas have the Arizona Hotshots as the favorite, and then the Apollos are tied for second with, I can't remember if it's San Diego or Salt Lake. And CBS just released its power rankings today, and we came in at number 2, right behind the Hotshots. So I would say, having seen about a little more than half the teams in the Alliance and just looking on paper, I would say the Apollos are the deepest team in the Alliance. In terms of pure talent, we probably have the most pure talent. Part of that's the regional allocation. I mean, we've got so many guys from the state of Florida and from all of these, big football programs in the state that we've got speed all over the place, and speed kills. So, as long as we can execute, one would think that we'll do really well. But, we won't really know until the games are played.
That's fair. Do you know who, off the top of your head, who the head coach of the Hot Shots is? Yeah,
it's Rick Neuheisel. He's a former NFL assistant and college head coach, and he was actually a quarterback in the USFL back in the 80s. Wow. He played for the San Antonio team, so he's not a stranger to third football or alternative football leagues, let's say.
He was they're a gunslinger. San Antonio gunslinger?
Yes, he was a San Antonio gunslinger. That's right. Yes.
Those were also some awful uniforms, and the trend continues. Because as much as I dislike those Atlanta Legends, I like the purple and gold. I just don't dig the crown. The Hot Shots, those things are a hot mess, man. So the helmet, I get it. I like it. I like how they use sort of the front of the helmet for their secondary emblem, like the AZ up there above the face mask. Mm-hmm. I think that's neat. I like how a lot of the teams put the numbers really big, like at the top center of the back helmet. But sort of the orange and green and yellow, that's they better be good.
Combination.
Yeah, they better be good.
It's a nod to the wildfire firefighters out in Arizona and the smoke jumpers.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of the reason the yellow helmets, like a fireman's helmet, and the green and yellow to kind of mimic the firefighters' uniforms was the concept there. They actually look really cool on the field and on TV. I'll tell you that.
All right, so while we're talking about uniforms, we had a show a couple years ago actually with a guy that wrote a book on the history of the Buccaneers, and that was actually a big topic that we talked about. The colors for the Apollos are a deep dark blue and an orange color. Orange definitely being a very prominent color, certainly for the state of Florida. Is there anything special to that coloring system?
Yeah, absolutely. It's navy blue and 2 shades of orange. Orange for the sunshine of Florida, obviously, in the citrus industry, and Apollo is the Greek god of the sun. But we also chose the Apollo name for the Apollo space missions. In Orlando, we're not that far from Kennedy Space Center and those legendary astronauts and explorers. So the navy blue is a nod to deep space and the Apollo explorers. And we're actually going to have a few Apollo program astronauts at our launch game this weekend, which is really awesome.
Okay. So this isn't trying to play off of the Florida coloring system, is it?
No one said that to me, and I can understand why some people might think that, given who our head coach is.
Sure.
But no, I don't think there was a conscious effort there.
All right. Well, speaking of the head coach, Ren, I'm sorry to cut you off, but since you went there, this might be like the hardest question from me.
Okay.
Steve Spurrier, he was coaching South Carolina a couple years ago. Middle of the season, he just said, "I'm done," and he retired. But now he's back coaching, and I've seen the videos. He looks upbeat. It actually is very reminiscent to me of the things that I've seen from John McKay, who was the Buccaneers' very first head coach. Was kind of an older guy, a little more salty. Kind of likes, loves the sport for sure. You can tell, but there's just I draw a lot of similarities. Like, how's Coach Spurrier doing? Like, I don't know what the right question is here, but like, he's back in it. Like, what do we expect out of that?
I think I know kind of what you're getting at, because I get asked this a lot. And and he tells it, he resigned, not retired, at South Carolina. And the way Coach tells the story is that his last year and a half or so, he had decided, he kind of, for whatever reason, took a step back and sort of became more of an administrator, head coach, and let his assistants do the coaching. And he said that's not how he wants to coach football. So he said when the Alliance opportunity came up, and it's funny you mentioned John McKay, because his son, J.K., who used to play for the Bucs, is the Alliance head of football operations, and he's the one who called Coach Spurrier and told him about this opportunity. And, when he saw that he wasn't going to have to be recruiting 12 months out of the year, it's a 4 or 5 month season. It's a 6-8 month job, and then he can go back to his regular life. He said he would, he really wanted to do it, especially given that the team's in Orlando, which is not far from his home in Gainesville. So, Coach Spurrier is back in there. He's our offensive coordinator. He's our quarterback's coach. He calls our plays. He designed our offense. He's in there with the quarterbacks every single day at practice, moving around, showing them how he wants them to hold the ball, where he wants them to stand, head position, all of that. He is rejuvenated and revitalized, and I'll tell you, he walks, moves, talks, and acts like he's 20 years younger the moment he steps on the field.
Yeah, that's something that's been described about Spurrier, I think, throughout his life. It's like he looks like he's 30, but he's 50. And plays scratch golfer, Heisman Trophy winner, married the prom queen. I mean, I'm a little too young to remember Spurrier at UF, and I barely remember him as the quarterback of the Bucs, but I do remember him as the head coach of the Tampa Bay Bandits, and that was sort of my first full exposure of Steve Spurrier. And,
right.
and then when he went on to Duke, and you won an ACC championship at Duke in football, that's when I sort of sat from my chair and go, okay, I got to pay attention to this guy. And then, of course, he came back to Florida, his school, not my alum, but my favorite college, and won a national championship, and, the rest is history. So I kind of think that just on Spurrier's knowledge alone that the Apollos, have sort of the edge, but, I'm no odds maker. But I really want to see a game between Mike Martz calling plays and Steve Spurrier calling plays. So Mike Martz is the Fleet, right?
Yes, he's the head coach of the San Diego Fleet. That was actually our scrimmage at the end of training camp. Our scrimmage was with the San Diego Fleet, and we played San Diego here in Orlando late this season. So you'll get to see that. And I will tell you, it was a sight to behold to watch those guys call plays against each other. And just to see the back and forth, and that's two. I love offensive football. I'm an offense guy, and to watch two of the greatest offensive minds the game's really ever seen go at it was a real treat. So I can't wait to see what happens when we face them in the regular season.
Yeah. So speaking of the regular season, let's actually jump ahead to the postseason. And how we get there. First of all, are there divisions in the alliance at all? No, there's 8 teams. So are there any divisions? How do we get to the playoffs? What does the playoff situation look like? Talk to us about how that's going to work.
We have an Eastern Conference and a Western Conference, 4 teams in each. So the East consists of the Apollos, the Atlanta Legends, the Memphis Express, and the Birmingham Iron. And the West is the San Antonio Commanders, the Salt Lake Stallions, the Arizona Hotshots, and the San Diego Fleet. The top 2 teams from each conference will face each other in the first round of the playoffs, and then the winners will play for the Alliance Championship.
So it'll be a 3-game playoff?
Two rounds. One round of top 2 teams in each conference, and the winner from each conference will play for the championship.
Cool. And then is the schedule, kind of like in the NFL, like your inter-conference guys or your division guys, like you play them twice, once at home and once away, and then play everybody else either home or away to fill out the rest of the schedule. Is that kind of how the schedule is
That's
made?
exactly how it goes. 10 games, so we play the 3 other teams in our conference twice, home and home, and then 1 game each against the teams from the West.
And that adds up to 10. There's your season.
Yeah. Yep, there's your season. So we've got road trips out to Salt Lake and San Antonio out west, and then we'll face each one of the 3 other teams in the East at home and home.
All right. I know I keep harping on this. Apparently I'm a big uniform guy, which I didn't realize. Like, you have to explain to me the Salt Lake Stallions.
Yeah.
How come they look like they stole their – like, I get the concept. I think it's cool. I like the colors, the silver and blue. They basically have the Detroit Lions color scheme.
Okay.
Real classic, real nice. But I'm assuming it's supposed to be – the helmet's supposed to be a horse mane, but it's a wing. Let's face it. It's the Oregon Ducks. Like what do you know? Am I right? Is it supposed to be a horse mane? Is that what they're thinking? Because you knew about the hot shots.
Part of it is a horse mane. It's also supposed to indicate speed because of all the speed records that are set out in Utah
on the salt flats.
So I would imagine there's some wing elements there. But I will tell you, and I don't know if you guys have seen this since you've looked at the uniforms so much, but do you know two things that are different about the Apollos uniforms than every other team in the Alliance's uniforms?
Oh, man. I haven't looked at them that close. I think they're only ones with the number on the back, like the big number. Most of them have it on the side.
On the helmet?
Yeah.
Yep, that's one.
Wait a minute, guy. Okay, I haven't actually seen the uniforms, players in uniforms. The players' numbers are on the side of their helmets?
Yeah, a lot of the teams have a logo on one side of their helmets and their number on the other side of their helmet. But the Apollos, we put the numbers on the back. And our team president, Mike Waddell, says the reason why the Apollos have their numbers on the back of their helmets is because all the other teams are going to be looking at us from behind anyway. So
I like it.
That. I do not know the second. I'm just going to guess here. It's the only team that doesn't have stripes on their jerseys.
We're white. We're the only team that has primary white uniforms.
Oh, all right. So okay. So it's white on white or white on blue?
It's white on white. The white jerseys with orange and blue trim and a blue stripe on the pants.
White on white. That's going to make Bucs fans happy.
Now I remember that. Oh, there's a huge thing. We got this guy who writes for the local paper who's been on change the uniform kick for 2 years now, and it's
oh gosh,
he's got some backing. So it's a thing on Twitter that anytime there's a slow 2 or 3 days in Buccaneer news, here comes change the uniforms, and it's actually exhausting.
Well, we also have the other. Anytime the Buccaneers wear all whites, we're going to lose.
Oh god,
yeah, that's been actually our problem is because they keep wearing all whites. They won't wear the actual home colors until really late in the season because somehow
because of the
Florida
heat.
sun and heat and whatever. Which okay, fine. If you think
these are the kind of things that happens when you don't go to the playoffs in 10 years.
Exactly.
You start looking for anything.
Exactly.
You start looking for anything.
Exactly. All right, Tom. Well, man, let's go ahead and kind of wrap this up because you've been with us and man, I love getting to talk with you. This is fun. It's a whole new thing, which is awesome. So, tell us real quick where the game's going to be played. How do people get tickets if they want to go, and
where people can find you?
Yeah, where people can find you.
Okay, so the games are going to be played at Spectrum Stadium, which is the home stadium of UCF. It's on the UCF campus in Orlando. You probably heard it called the Bounce House because it actually does bounce when the fans get really rowdy.
Nice.
So all our home games will be there. Tickets are available at OrlandoApollos.com/tickets. Most of the seats, 30,000 or so of the seats, are in the $30 to $35 range. Season tickets start at $75. It's a real affordable night out for the family. This weekend for our launch game against Atlanta, like I said, we're going to have some Apollo program astronauts there. The Bethune-Cookman Wildcats marching band is going to perform at halftime. We've got the world's largest toga party going on. So Apollo, being a Greek god, we want all our fans to come out in togas. And there's a big tailgate party 3 hours before the game with some great drink specials outside the stadium. So we want to get that place rocking. It gets really loud for UCF games, and we want to bring that energy, to the Apollos games. So tickets, like I said, OrlandoApollos.com/tickets. If you want to keep up with everything Apollos throughout the season, where the team is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AAF Apollos. It's the same handle on all three. And I'm the team reporter, so I'm your source for that, that inside stuff embedded with the team and practices and all that other stuff. So you can find me on Twitter at the Tom Alexander and on Instagram at I Write and I Know Stuff.
All right, that was Tom Alexander of the Orlando Apollos. He is their team reporter, basically the Scott Smith, Carmen Vitale over there with the Orlando Apollos. You guys make sure you follow him and everything that he's doing at the Tom Alexander. Ren, buddy, he's got me jacked up for the season.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to talk to him. You could tell he's a football guy, and like I remember the old USFL days. Like it was just a fun league. Like we had season tickets to the Tampa Bay Bandits. It was they had guys coming out of college, so they had eventually when the league folded, some actually Hall of Fame players ended up going to the moving from the USFL to the NFL. Actually, a handful, quite a few actually. But this is going to be a little different. As you heard in the interview, it's not necessarily a farm team or a minor league for the NFL, but it's definitely a developmental league. And I think that it's going to help out these guys that team sort of draft late and they need a lot of coaching and development and the way the practice schedule is and things of that nature. Those guys who don't get picked up, they'll be able to, get 10 weeks of game tape out there for the NFL to look at, plus to get all that extra practice time. So, the Alliance is not trying to compete with the NFL.
Right.
They're trying to be, and you heard Tom say it, a complimentary league to the NFL. And, I don't know if this part made the interview or not, but, they got 3-year deals. With the TV, with the network. So
and all the players have coaches and players all have 3-year deals too.
Yeah. So but with the real important part is the TV money. Yeah. With the TV money, they're going to go at least 3 years. Right. It'll be able to keep them afloat for that. So we'll see where it goes, but I'm excited for it. It's going to be somewhere. Obviously, it's going to be somewhere between college and the NFL, and it's going to be that little niche. And I think eventually, in our lifetime, if this league sticks, that we're going to see some guys that were sort of like the MVPs and superstars of the Alliance that eventually come in and have a nice career, maybe a Hall of Fame career. Yeah. In the NFL.
Ren, I remember a long time ago, back when we still did top threes on the Pewtercast, one of the ones that you had was you said that one of your top 3 things was you thought that it was time for the NFL to create a developmental league. And you made a really good case for it, and I've never actually forgotten that. That's been one of the things that's been in the back of my mind, and I wholeheartedly agree. What I love is what you just said. The Alliance knows what it is, and it's not trying to be what it isn't. It's not trying to be the NFL. They just are what they are, and they're not in competition with the NFL. So I love that. I could see one day, and I don't know if this will actually happen, but if this Alliance thing works out over the next 3 seasons, I could see this eventually getting absorbed by the NFL, basically becoming their farm league type thing. But it is that developmental thing, so it'd be real interesting to see. And I really hope that if this lives up to the hype and kind of what I'm feeling coming out of this interview and just as excited as I am, if it lives up to that, which it sounds like it might, this could be a really good step forward for the sport of football.
Yes, I agree. And I think the biggest clue or the biggest step to making that happen right away is that the NFL Network is actually going to carry their football games. Yeah. So, they're sort of in step. I'm sure they have, the big wigs of the Alliance and the big wigs of the NFL have met, and they have sort of, a 5-year plan mapped out, and still got to see how it goes. It's all about, John Q. Public here, about how it's accepted and of course how the product is on the field. But, they got Spurrier, they got Mike Martz, the guy from UCLA, Rick Neuheisel. I mean, if you follow college football and follow pro football and for a while, you're going to know these names. I mean, these guys are they're good. They're good head coach. I think Dennis Erickson's a head coach somewhere. Right. So. And
the price point's good.
Price point's great. Yeah. You can take your whole family, probably for, depending on where you sit, but you can probably take your whole family for under $100. Yeah. And then go sit where you want to.
Maybe. I don't know. I was looking at some of the tickets, and the blue dots on Ticketmaster are going away. Like, there's not as many as you might think there'd be. Like, they're selling pretty good from what we understand. So, Man, a couple of things coming out of that interview. I loved what he had to say about Steve Spurrier, because honestly, it was one of my big concerns of just kind of knowing how things ended in South Carolina. I didn't know what he told us, though. I didn't know that it was he'd kind of backed himself into a corner, and it's not really the way he wanted to be, and that's why he stepped away. But to hear that he's kind of got the fire and the passion back, I don't know how old Steve Spurrier is. He's got to be 70 plus, right? But, you know, I have never once understood or worried about the age thing with Bruce Arians for us over in Tampa Bay. But, you know, obviously it's a different pressure level for Bruce than it is for Steve, you know, but it's to hear that he's out there and he's got all that energy, man. I'm excited for what this could mean for Tampa Bay as well.
Yeah. And, you know, sticking with Steve Spurrier, I just can't wait to see the fun and gun come back.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, his offenses were fun to watch because they gunned the ball over the field. And listening to Tom, and I've read a little bit about the Alliance, you know, he talked about their defensive line and mentioned a linebacker. They've got a couple of really good safeties that are ex-Gator alums back there. I mean, this defense that the Apollos have, like, you know, defense wins championships, but you put somebody with Spurrier's offensive mind where it's like, just be where you're supposed to be and catch the ball. Like, right. And if the offensive line can block at all, and if you come out there with this smothering defense, it's supposed to be, you know, well, I've only read a little bit, but, you know, they're hinting that it's supposed to be the best defense in the Alliance. That it's I'm telling you, man, I've seen Steve Spurrier minor league / developmental league football. It's fun to watch.
Well, man, I'm excited. So I will definitely be tuning in. The game is at 8:00 on Saturday night. It'll be playing on, I think this week it's playing on CBS.
Yes.
There's several networks that have signed on to pick up these games. So CBS is one of them, CBS Sports, NFL Network you mentioned, and there's one other one. I can't remember who the other one is.
I believe it's Bleacher Report Live.
Is that a television channel?
No, it's an app.
That's an internet.
So it's a streaming.
Okay.
It'll be a streaming service.
Okay. So listen, guys, if you can get out to the game, I would recommend getting out to the game. I'm going to try. It's a little bit of an important weekend for me and my family this week, so I don't know if I'm going to make the inaugural game, though I'm really hoping to. But I definitely can't wait to get down there. I'm definitely planning on checking out at least a couple of games. There's only 5. There's only 5 home games, so don't keep putting it off.
Thinking short season.
The next one. Real short season. Yeah.
I mean, this is like a 10, 11, 12-week gig for us. It's like a mini series.
Yeah. And we'll be done before the draft.
It's what I forgot. I almost said Locked On Bucs.
I was wondering what you were talking about. Locked On Bucs, Petercast winner.
No, the one where we did for Hard Knocks.
Talking Knocks.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's just gonna be a little short thing, and it'll be fun. But the Pewtercast is not going away.
No. Well, these two will be running concurrently. We will continue our Pewtercast coverage and the normal things that we do there. That we say typically runs about every 2 weeks, though it could come out a little bit more frequently. That'll be fully Bucs centric. But this show, you guys will see it, and it'll be tagged up, so you'll know what you're looking at when you see it in the podcast feed. You don't have to go subscribe to a new podcast. It'll be right here within the regular podcast feed that you have there as well. Oh, and by the way, this show will release several hours earlier on our Patreon feed. So if you guys want to get it early, jump over there and check that out. Patreon.com will make it available to all patrons no matter what price level you are at. So it'll be there several hours earlier over there. So
for you diehard Apollo fans, give us like $4 a month and you could get this a couple hours early.
Right. While you're sleeping.
Wow. So, incentives.
Incentives. Just saying it's over there. It's over there. All right, Ren. Well, man, we're excited. So yeah, we'll kick this into gear. And our tentative plan is this isn't going to be as full on go as we do during the normal football season. Like we're not going to have the instant cast, but we'll probably have 2 shows a week, I think, covering the Orlando. One will be more like our final thoughts show, and the other one will be more like our Buck in the News show. Just talking about what's going on with the Apollos as well. That's the tentative plan. We'll see how it works out as we go forward. So with that, Ren, why don't we go ahead and get out of here for tonight? And why don't you tell the folks out there where they can find you on the internet?
Best place to find me is on Twitter at Rendax, REN_DAXT. I'm always down to talk Buccaneers football and Apollos football.
You're gonna have to change that.
What's that?
You're gonna have to change that for the show.
Yeah, I'm always down to talk Buccaneers and Apollos football. I'll change it for this one. I won't change it for the Bucs one. I will not I will not slide the Apollos into the Pewtercast.
Right. And if you guys want to get a hold of me, you can find me at Brent Allen Live on Twitter and on Instagram. And if you want to find the show, you can find the mother show, the Pewtercast, on Twitter and on Facebook. Ren, we probably ought to do that social media thing or something. Yeah. It'll be on. You'll see it at the Pewtercast. We'll put. And hey, you know what? We also have brand new graphics, so you guys be on the lookout for that. I'm actually kind of excited about the graphics. It's a reworking of our Pewtercast brand. I think it looks pretty good. So you guys be on the lookout for that. Let us know what you think. But until then, guys, we will close out the show. You guys watch the game Saturday, 8:00. Orlando Apollos versus the Atlanta Legends.
Correct.
That's right. 8:00.
First uniforms in the league.
There you go. There you go.
I don't know if I haven't said that enough.
Ren was obsessed about the uniforms. All right, let's get out of here. Go Apollos.
Our intro music's a banger.